Welcome to Clutch Kick Radio with Ryan Lackner. And once again, Clutch Kick Radio. How you doing, man?
Good. How about you?
Fantastic, buddy. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
How old are you now? 21?
29.
Getting old.
I know. Feel like it too.
About to hit those dirty 30s, son. But let me tell you something. As somebody that's in my 30s, that's when things really start to get interesting. I feel like people will take you more seriously. Business starts to get interesting, you know.
So does that just happen right away? Just as soon as midnight on that day, you just...
Basically, yeah, you're going to wake up with your back hurting in ways that you never thought were possible. And your fingers are going to start cracking, and you're going to be like, oh, what is going on? You're just suddenly going to have a gut. It's the craziest
just
thing.
The beer belly just instantly bloop, right there. Oh, whoa, where'd that come from?
That's right. That's right. Hey, everybody, we are going to have Chris Egger on here in just a little bit. He's going to be calling in. Until then, we've got some photographic stylings that should be going up on the background here from Casey Miller.
Casey Miller, yeah. He is hopefully going to be coming along for the ride with us for multiple episodes, and hopefully lots of media content through not only Clutch Kick Radio, but also through hopefully a bunch of Andy's pages for different things he's going to be doing there.
Man, this dude is a photog. Like, look at these.
And hilarious. The guy just is a blast to hang out with. I know last time we were at PARC, he was just the comical relief the whole time.
Nice. Well, that's good. We're going to need somebody that has the comic relief for SEMA.
That's right.
What's the other one they do? Apex, I think, which is like, it's two halves of the same coin. SEMA is a little bit more Las Vegas, and Apex is a little bit more industry.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, we'll see what we end up going with. Excited to be going out on a few different platforms today. You're seeing us either on Twitch, on Facebook Live, or on YouTube. This is a first for us. And so far, it seems to be going pretty well, thanks to our genius producer, Nick, over here. 19 years old. Can you believe he's running this show?
He does really good at his work, that's for sure. He is good at what he does.
Man, does it all. And you've got a new gaming channel, don't you, Chris? Or, excuse me, Nick. What's the name of it going to be? Don't know yet? Okay. He's working on it.
It's still a work in progress,
Yeah, he's been talking to me about all these games that he has lined up. And, you know, it's stuff from, like, I don't know, when I was in my mid-20s. And he's talking about it like, yeah, when I was a little kid.
And you're just like, oh, man, I'm so old. Yeah, I know. That's when I look back at like some of my gaming stuff on there now that I've been getting on my computer doing some of this stuff. It's like, whoa, that's way too many hours on one video game.
Yep. Hey, speaking of too many hours, I mean, I know that you basically live and breathe drifting.
Oh, yeah.
And people, when they're looking at these amazing photos in the background here, one thing that you're probably noticing out there is that some photos are in the dry, some photos are in the wet. And I'll tell you what, Ryan, it really wouldn't hurt to know, because, I mean, colloquially, we all call it drift lube.
Yeah.
But as far as a beginner starting out, I mean, do you really think that rain events are going to do people better than dry events?
Yes and no. See, PARC's a little interesting because the go-karts, they lay down a rubber. And so when it rains, it becomes more like ice. I think it's more like ice than drifting in the rain. And so at PARC, I think it's a little harder, but I mean, if you only got 100 horsepower, it's great. I mean, I've probably never drifted PARC with anything less than 150 horsepower. So like, you know, drifting at KA 240, it's great. It's so much fun. But anything over that, it starts to feel like ice, and you know, everyone has 1,000 horsepower at that point. It's fun.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So, I mean, the people that are stepping in and wanting to try drifting with, I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week. Very few people are actually drifting with stock horsepower these days. It seems like everyone's rocking a turbo something.
Well, that, and I feel like even your stock, even a lot of your stock motors, they're just making more power. It's just like some of your BMWs, even NA, they're making 200 plus, you know, and some of the other NA V8 cars, you know, they're right up in the 300 range, just factory. Even V6 cars are right in there sometimes, depending on what motor it is. So I think it's a little bit of all of it, and it's an evolution of the sport, you know. Before at PARC, you know, first 2-3 events, you didn't see a car over, you know, 350 horse. Now it's like you don't see a car under 300 horse almost, you know.
Right.
Except for the select few that choose to stay that way, you know.
Sure. People doing like the black top 20 valve 4AGs in there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which, by the way, those cars aren't cheap anymore. I'm actually old enough to remember when those cars were $700-800.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 240s are the same way. I remember when you could pick up like a clean rolling shell, $500. Man, I wish I would have bought like 5 of them and hung on to them for a while. I bet, but I'm sure everyone's saying that at this point, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like the LT1s might start making a comeback. I know LS1s or just the LS platform in general is a huge one right now. But the more I start seeing LT1 cars from like the early 90s, and I've started wondering about them, and it seems like there have been a few videos that have been coming out recently where people are going, yeah, you can make power on these, you just need the right combination, because, you know, they didn't flow well. That was the big thing for the LT1s. Yep. But there are certain heads, I forget what they call them. One of them was like a cathedral head versus a cone head. I don't know, you know, something like that. Yeah. But there's differences between the heads and the intake manifolds, and they all make power in different ways. But I was watching this fella put just a factory combination together of a 5.7 LT1, and it made 400 horse.
Yeah, so from what I know of the LT1s is, you're right, they're not a bad platform, but you can't push them too far. It's just I feel like it's kind of like 302s. You know, you don't really go much over like 450, 400 from what I've heard with the 302, because they start splitting at like 500.
Right.
You know, and so I feel like the LT1s are kind of that same boat. So if you're just looking for some cheap power and you only want 300-400 horse, I feel like, yeah, it's a great platform. And there's plenty of others even in the same place. I mean, even your older 350s. I mean, you can make 350 horse easy on those. And at that point, you're an iron block anyways, because an LT1's an iron block. So you could really go either way, and you can make a ton of power.
Sure. And I just, you know, I don't know. I'm not claiming to be an expert on it, but like, come on, 300-400 horsepower in a drift car. If you're still grassroots, if you're not trying to compete, you know, Pro-Am or something like that on the big banks, do you really need a whole bunch more than that?
No, I don't think so. No, not at PARC. I mean, the 450 horse that my car is, I don't know, sometimes it's almost a little bit useless, I feel like. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun. Stuff it in third and roll smoke through the whole back section, but is it needed? No.
Sure.
You know, you could do it with a lot less.
There was kind of a sweet spot there for a little while at Pat's Acres where some people had 250, 275 horsepower, it seemed like, and would really just be able to spin them and smoke them the entire way around the track. That seemed to kind of be, again, like a sweet spot for Pat's Acres, and maybe it's changed now with the way suspension's changed and just setups in general have changed. Is that the case that you found?
Yeah, I mean,
because you're able to put more power to the ground now with the different technologies.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more development in the traction and the department. I feel like that's just because there's more sharing now from the pros down, and even more than that, I think everyone's just learning. It's such a new sport and new for everyone, and I feel like, you know, with all the different cars that are in it, especially here in America versus just, you know, like over in Japan and where it started, it's not starting over, but everyone had to take, you know, what they learned from all of that and apply it to all the American cars. And I feel like now we're finally getting to a point where everything's kind of catching up. You know what I mean? Like all of the other cars are starting to catch up with where 240s have been forever or whatever. And they're surpassing them. I mean, your Corvettes and some of those cars, they start out with probably just as much traction as my 240 has right now, you know? So, and I guess we'll find out. So C5's about ready to go on the ground. So should be a fun car for sure. And they're both 450 horse. So it'll be a really good comparison. It'll be interesting.
Oh yeah. 1JZ compared to the LS. What is your block? A 6-liter?
Yeah. It's a 6-liter LQ4.
Yeah. That'll be a really, really good comparison. As a matter of fact, people have said to me before, as a matter of fact, I feel like you've said to me before, the Corvette is kind of one of these weird ones where as it gets cheaper, it's going to kind of be like a like a slap a couple parts on and go and drift. I mean, an angle kit.
Yeah, I mean it already pretty much is, because Matt Field and them have produced all the stuff through PBM. I mean, you can buy off the shelf bolt-on knuckles, and I think if you do, that's all you have to do is the knuckles, and you can get like I think 55 degrees or 56 somewhere in there with just the off the shelf knuckles.
And that's a lot.
And on top of that, then they make a e-brake bracket to bolt on, and it puts the e-brake directly in the C5 cup holder, so you don't even have to modify any plastic, anything like that. You take it all off, you take the cup holder and all that out, you bolt all that on, put all the plastic back on. It still looks pretty factory inside.
That's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, so I think that I don't know how much cheaper those cars are really going to get at this point. You know, with the prices of the engines and trans and the diff and all that, I feel like they can only get so cheap, you know, but I still think they're a viable option, and they're somewhat worth it if that's what you're, you know, if you're into Corvettes, you're into GM, it's a nice factory bolt-on car you could drive on the street.
I can see the value of them coming down to where like the Camaros are, you know, the Catfish Camaros. It's because of the transaxle. Because what are you going to swap that transaxle into without just taking the entire Corvette subframe out of it?
I mean, that's how you have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's true. That's true.
It's just my 2 cents. I'm interested to know what people think that are out there watching. We had a few people watching. Come on, drop your comments. Let us know, do you think that the C5 Corvette is going to be one of the best kept secrets in drifting here in the next couple of years?
I think it is. I don't know if I'm a little biased because I really like Corvettes and I always have since a kid, but I still think it's the best kept secret. And as everyone and a few people have mentioned to me, I have a serious love-hate relationship with Fords. So
Yeah. I'm going to throw one more out. I apologize, you guys. I know we're talking about PARC today, but I'm talking about Kyle Stryker. How are you doing? I'm talking about the different kinds of cars. I got one more for you, because hot on the heels of the Mustang talk from last week, the American Iron Series in SCCA racing, you've got the Mustangs, but then you've also got the, what is it, the 6th generation Camaro. It's the one from the early mid 80s on into the late 80s. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, like the IROCs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I don't.
You can get race parts for those. That's the reason why I'm bringing it up.
And it's probably gonna make all the dirt track guys mad, because it's gonna make all their prices go up. But I really think that one of the cheapest ways into one of those cars, and I think it's pretty sweet, is just getting a dirt track car. Because from what I've heard from one of the dirt track guys I talked to, I was like, you know, why does it steers 70 degrees one way, but it doesn't the other way? And he's like, oh, that's just a steering lockout. And I'm like, what do you mean a steering lockout? He's like, oh, it's just like a bolt-on piece that stops the steering. And I'm like, so you're telling me this thing has like 70 degrees of angle, and I just have to unbolt one part, and you more or less have a caged. A lot of times they're even just sheet metal body cars at this point. They're not even Camaros. And with a V8 5-speed, you can pick one up for like $3,000, $3,500 running. I mean,
especially around here, because I live 1 mile from Limit Raceway.
Yep. I mean, and chances are they've already got some kind of locking diff, because it's going to have some kind of good LSD. It's probably not a welded. Now, I don't know exactly what they use, but it's probably got some kind of good LSD. Now, can you swap that out real easy? Oh yeah, you could get a spool for a few $100 for one of those, and then you basically have a full-on drift car right there, you know. And I seen I can't remember his last name, but his first name's Kurt, and he is the guy that drives one of the C5s at PARC, and he has a NASCAR that he's been drifting at Spirit Peaks, like a full-on NASCAR car he bought, and that's been pretty interesting.
It kind of makes sense, though, doesn't it?
I mean, it does. I mean, it seems like a lot of the suspension and everything, you know, that is learned through drifting and all that, it's applied from other racing. You know, it's just what has been learned from other cars, and I feel like it's not that far off. Yeah, the setup might be weird. It might be a different wheelbase, might be something kind of funky about it you have to change, but I mean, you're changing every other car anyways. So if you can pick one up for that price, it's already got steering, it's already got more or less got a locking diff, you could probably just drive it straight to the track and beat the crap out of it. Sweet. I mean, what's it going to cost you to do a cage in a 240? $3,000? You just bought a car for $3,000. It's already caged.
And in a lot of cases, they'll have a pretty badass motor.
Exactly. I mean, now obviously you're not going to go compete with that cage and this and that because it's probably not going to be FD spec and all this. But if that's not what you're going for, who cares?
Yeah.
You go get a cheap beat up car and got sheet metal panels. You break it. Who cares? You go buy some more sheet metal and rivet them on and call it a day.
Yeah. Throw a Dodge Caravan dashboard into it and register at the DMV. Kyle Stryker says C5, C6 will be the new BMW as the BMWs will be the new 240, I think. And Tim says Ryan likes Fords. Don't let him fool you. Yeah.
No.
Well, it's a love-hate.
It is. It's a love-hate for sure.
It's kind of like a hate-love-hate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
It's like a TV dinner, Ryan. It's just good enough to keep you coming back for more.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. The SN95 was just fun enough that I might consider owning another one if it was cheap enough. Oh, looks like we got Chris from Pat's Acres calling in right now.
All right, go ahead and pick that up.
Hello, Chris. How's it going?
Good, Ryan. How are you guys?
Good. How's it?
Chris, this is Andy here. Thank you so much for jumping on the call.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you
What's
what,
going
man.
on?
We saw Pat's Acres had an event last weekend. How'd that go?
It went really good. I think people were anxious to get out of the house and kind of get back to sideways and tire smoking and the things they love to do.
It's easy to social distance when you're in your car.
Well, that's what I thought. I said, if you guys are going to run tandem, just don't get real close to each other.
Saves the cars that way anyways.
We were able to, we put some things into place and, we had to document a lot of stuff because somebody had turned us in for putting an event on. And so,
of course,
the authorities had sent us the directions on the policies that we need to follow, and it wasn't hard to do that. And we put everything into place, and everybody had a really good time, and nobody died.
That's awesome.
How
many drivers?
We had 81 drivers.
Nice. That is a good turnout. That's definitely people ready to get out of their house, especially on a wet, dry day like that. Usually the driver count is at least somewhat lower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it was good. The people responded very well.
That's awesome. So how many, I know that they were allowed to have like a pit crew. How many people were they allowed to have with them?
We pretty much, if they showed up, if we didn't really care how many people came in with them, as long as you kind of halfway showed up with somebody,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
And, we've got 47 acres here. So I kind of figured if we have, 500 people on site, that's only, do the math, 80 or 90 per acre. We can spread out.
Yep.
Sure.
Definitely.
Well, so let me ask you, is this something that might be able to carry into more events this year?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, we're moving forward. We have Summer Jam, the 2-day event, scheduled in a little over a month. That, it's a 2 or a 3-day event. I think it's a 3-day event.
Yeah, that's May 23rd through the 25th.
Okay. So the game plan is we're going to go through with that. Everything is normal. The only thing at this point in time, we're not 100% sure what the policy is going to be on camping. We get a lot of local people that want to come in and hang out and camp. I guess that's what we do here in the Northwest on Memorial and Labor Day.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Every year.
But we may have to restrict ourselves. To like out of town drivers and their staff. We don't know yet.
Oh, just like limit the amount of people that can stay.
Yeah, that can camp. During the day, there's plenty of room for people to spread out.
Oh, yeah.
And, if your family or you're all from the same little group and you want to be 4.5 feet apart instead of 6 feet, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So are there going to be spectators at the next event, or is it still just drivers and crew, family member only?
We're hoping that we can open it up to spectators. obviously that's one of the 2 or 3 events a year that everybody looks forward to coming out and watching.
Oh, yeah, that's the biggest spectator, one of the 2 biggest spectator events for sure.
Yeah, that and Park Fest.
Yeah, what is it, normally 1,000 people or more come through?
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty close. Usually we figure there's somewhere between 700 and 900 a day, spectator-wise.
I understand that must injure your bottom line if you don't have the spectators coming through, but I'm glad that you guys are continuing to have the events just to keep things rolling.
Well, and that's what we're trying, one of the big things for us is, and we're doing it with the karting world as well. We're putting on the first race in the Northwest on the 16th and 17th, the weekend before. And, our goal is to, and we've reached out to a lot of the other kart shops and said, get on down here, sell some tires, sell some fuel. We're not going to sell tires. We're trying to kind of help everybody, that's in the game kind of jumpstart things and get their businesses going again. And so, there's a few people here in the Portland area that we see a lot that make their living in the drift world. And it's got to be pretty tough when nobody's, burning tires up and breaking stuff.
Yeah, I know the Portland Roadster show shutting down hurt quite a few people, like in the drifting and car scene. I know I was looking forward to going to that, and we didn't get to go either. So,
yeah, no, it's been tough on everybody, But I think what you're seeing is people are getting to the point where they're getting back to normal.
Yeah, it's just a normal thing at this point.
A lot of the stuff that they said was going to happen and we were all going to die, and it's just none of it's happening. I don't think there's more than 35 cases in Clackamas County. I don't know. There's probably upwards of 1 million people in Clackamas County, and if 35 people are sick, I'm sorry, but to shut everything down around us does not make sense. Unless you're in New York.
That's been the general consensus so far. This morning, I had a phone call with, it was actually over on my food show. I talked to a lady that organizes barbecue competitions for the area, and she was basically saying the same thing. She was like, it's not good. Nobody wants to get sick, but we are going to have to do something.
Right. So, yeah, we got to do something. We've been out here working every day, and we've had a lot of people come through. I'm a fairly healthy guy and don't get sick very often. And but I've been in Home Depot and the Costco's and everywhere you go, there's people interacting with hundreds and thousands of people every day, and they're not getting sick.
Right.
So, if we're out here and there's a few people, 100 people around and, on a daily basis, 60 or 50 people around and everybody's, healthy, and we're just not seeing it. So,
well, Chris, the only sickness you have is the need for speed, my friend. How long have you been with Pat's Acres?
We bought the track in '98, so this is our 23rd season.
And let's see here, drifting started what year?
Ooh, what was that, Chris?
I can tell you this.
2012. We always debate about it every time.
I just looked it up. I was going through some records this winter. So there were a few kids that had bugged me for a few different times, and I'm pretty sure, Ryan, you were one of those kids.
Probably.
And I had just said, no, it doesn't work, won't work, track's too small. And I finally relented. That was in the fall of 2009. And a guy named Slater.
Oh, yeah, okay, yep.
So
and it took him a year, I think, to get it going.
I know it was the Stryker brothers, or at least one of them. I believe one of them was James Wicklund.
Mm-hmm.
I think Devin.
Yep.
Oh, Devin. He does media now.
Yep, Devin Gibson. He was a part of it.
There you go. Devin, and there was a fourth. I thought, Ryan, it was you, but I don't
yeah, I was there for that, as well as Rochelle Leach. They're all people that are still around in the drifting community. And but yeah, it's been around for a long time. It's crazy to think that it's been that long. It's still doing
So
it.
that was at the end of the summer, fall of 2009. I know Slater got involved and put on a couple of events, and then, at least from what I was told, just pretty much disappeared. And
No comment.
4 kids came back and said, okay, we'll do it. And then there was insurance issues because they couldn't get insured and blah, blah, blah. And we worked, anyways. 2010 was when we started. Pretty much in the spring of 2010 was when we committed and saw that this might turn into something. And we started pretty much once a month. And other than 1 or 2 events canceled for flooding, we have been at least 12 to 14 events a year ever since.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're pretty hard on you about not letting you cancel events. It's pretty much like, don't cancel them.
Which is fine. I know last spring we had an event that you guys came in. I think we drifted on Saturday. If it was a Saturday event, by Sunday at noon, we were flooded. And if it was a Sunday event, it was Monday at noon. Like the whole bottom end here, we were flooded and out of space. So the big fella upstairs, I think, likes to watch drifting as well because he allowed that one to happen.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. The whole lake on the bottom.
Yeah.
Could only let so many people in because there was nowhere to park.
And I think we did one in January or February of this year that we were full of water in the bottom end.
I remember that one, yeah. Speaking of things that we remember, I'm going to go back a little ways, too. The Willamette Motor Club actually had, I want to say, 1 or 2 events at Pat's Acres over the years.
I forgot about that.
The very first one they did was called the Witch's Twist. And Chris, my piece of crap little white turbo protege actually got second place that day to a Lotus Europa.
Really?
Yeah.
And that was here?
Yeah, that was there.
That was during the time when me, Kyle, and everyone and Loki Motorsports was running the events. That was during that same time.
Okay. Yeah, I remember. I pretty much stayed in the office and prayed that nobody would hit a tree and that that this thing would take off and go.
Somehow we made it happen, right?
Yeah, and it's
amazing. It's an amazing community.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, I was having this conversation this last week. Somebody kind of said, you got pretty lucky. You kind of got tied in with some pretty big names in this thing and blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I remember, I believe it was about 2013 and I got a phone call and the guy says, hey, my name's Ryan and I live back in Connecticut and I've got a car that's being built out there in the Portland area and we need to do some testing and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, okay, yeah, I can see what the schedule looks like. Are you wanting, does your budget fit for a weekday or a weekend? And the guy says, well, we don't really have a budget set aside for that. And I literally said to him, Roger Penske pays for track time. It isn't a scenario where, and the gentleman on the other end of the phone very graciously and very humbly said, well, I'll tell you what, check your schedule. Let's see what we can do. If you can figure out how to get us a little bit of time, I will do everything that I can to make this benefit both of us. And I think I can bring some exposure and we'll try to do some stuff that'll benefit you guys in the long run. And hopefully no money has to change hands. So I said, okay, well, let me go look at the schedule and I'll call you back. So I run into the building. A couple of my boys and a couple of other guys were in there. And I said, have you guys ever heard of a guy named Ryan Turek? And they go, Ryan Turek? And I go, yeah, that's it. And they're like, yeah. And I said, so he wants to come here and do his car reveal. And he didn't say, he would never say he was a really big deal. But he said that he's got a little bit of a media following and they pulled up their, Instachat or whatever it is. And I looked at it and went, holy cow, this guy's got a lot of people to follow him. So I called him back and I said, okay, yes, you guys can have the track till noon. And it started on a Tuesday, I believe. So I come out here, and clearly this was a pretty big operation. This was not a garage build. And they rolled this thing out of the trailer, and there were like 3 or 4 film crews here, media guys. There were some from the LA area and the Bay Area and Seattle, and there were guys all around. And this guy's got them all signing documents saying that they won't show anything and expose anything until they get the green light, and that, blah, 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 whatever media guys do and whatever. And so they fire the car up, and the thing breaks in about half a lap. So all these guys are scrambling, and they're changing their flights, and they're staying another day. So long story, not quite as long. For 3 mornings, Mr. Turek and an entourage of media guys are out here. They finally got that car running, and when Ryan gave them the green light and they showed them, I think that was the FRS. I know it was the FRS, Bill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the videos went crazy. Ryan's walking down the middle of the straightaway, hey, I'm here at Pat's Acres and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm watching the video, and I look down, and there's, hundreds of thousands of people that have seen that thing. And it was just crazy.
Hey.
So then, go ahead.
Oh, Chris, I just wanted to interject real quick. Right around the same time, I was doing a lot of racing with Gran Turismo on PlayStation. And right after that happened, because you had your location come up on your profile when you were playing those games, people would notice that it said Oregon for me, and I would be in these drift rooms with the sim racers, and they'd go, "Hey, do you know Pat's Acres? Have you heard of that before?"
Isn't that funny?
It's crazy, and they were from all over the country.
Well, so I thought, well, that was kind of cool. We kind of got to get pretty close, and I sort of stayed in touch with Ryan here and there. I'd holler, he'd text me or whatever. So about 2 weeks before the Seattle round, before the Monroe round of the FD series, Ryan calls me and he says, "Hey, so a lot of these guys that I drift with, I've never been on a go-kart track, and they look at me like I'm drunk when I tell them it's pretty cool. And I would really like to see if we could bring some guys down there and play. Do you have any time in your schedule that would work?" Keeping in mind, this was 2 weeks before Seattle, and I said, "Let me call you back, Ryan. I'll go look at the schedule, and I'll call you." Well, that Monday was the only Monday in a 9-week period that we had an open day. And that was literally the only open day in a month. So I called Ryan back and I said, "Hey, yes, Monday works if it works for you guys." And he says, "Well, what will you charge us if I bring some buddies, 10 or 15 guys, and we bring some cars down there and we play?" And I said, I don't know. What do you know? And I thought about it for about 2 seconds, and I said, "I'll tell you what, Ryan, I'll give you the track, and I'll pay for the insurance, and I'll staff the event if all you guys do is have fun, and I can charge at the front gate, because I have a feeling people are going to want to come see this." And that Monday, we rolled almost 1,000 people in here to watch those guys just be giant third graders in their cars.
Right? On a Monday when a lot of people had to work or did have to work.
I don't think there was a worker at McDonald's or Taco Bell within a 20-mile radius.
Oh, I'm sure there wasn't.
It
was amazing. I was at that event. That was amazing.
And they were strapping baseball bats on the rear bumpers of their car and hitting a beach ball off the cone as they went through corner 2. They put some boxes on the straightaway, and they were trying to come down and slide 180 and into a parking spot, and the boxes were simulating cars, and they had to slide in. They just did crazy, crazy stuff. And so that turned into an annual event. And then I know the second year or third year, there were some guys that showed up, and there was some Red Bull stuff going on, and they were filming and blah, blah, blah. And, "Oh, yeah, we're going to make a commercial." And, you just kind of go, "Yeah, sure you are. I'll believe it when I see it." And about 2 months later, I'm getting on an airplane on the East Coast, And as we're sort of taxiing out or we just taken off, the screen pops up. There's a Red Bull commercial that comes on, and there's that overhead shot of the 13 or 15, 14 cars. And I'm sitting there watching it going, holy cow, I know where that's at. And I literally go to tap the guy next to me to go, hey, check that. And I just went, nah, never mind. You won't believe me.
That's awesome.
But there's been some crazy. We've just gotten really, really lucky. Chelsea took that thing over, the play day. Ryan got to the point where sponsorship stuff was tugging and pulling on him. And, then Chelsea came along and moved a little ways away. And I actually have spent most of the morning with him. He's out back working in the shop. And now he runs the schools out of here. And we literally get to watch these guys come in from Japan and Europe to go through his schools. And it's crazy. They go out and drive, and you sit and you go, wow, that guy's pretty solid. Chelsea goes, yeah, he's been driving on your course on Corsa Aceta for the last 4 months.
Yep.
But it's crazy. I mean, the drift thing was one of those things that, I'd never really seen it, paid much attention to it. And a lot of people in my position, I know a lot of track owners that I was talking to early on, trying to encourage them, and they were just afraid of it.
There was a lot of people were.
It was like, those kids that are all, vaping and pierced and tattooed. And I'm like, those kids listen and follow the rules better than kart racers do. Those kids are very, very respectful. Most of them clean up after themselves, and they're a joy to work with. And, we've had a few hiccups along the way, but
they always get taken care of pretty quickly in the community themselves. And that's the one thing that I think I love about it the most, is that the community kind of takes care of itself a little bit. Anyone steps too far out of line, and usually they get taken care of on social media pretty good. And then, you don't have to deal with it. And I know I'm definitely thankful and grateful for you guys taking, that opportunity and giving it to us and all of that, because it definitely grew, what all of us are now, and it let us, be creative and do, the things that we loved and enjoy. Because I know if it wasn't for drifting, I don't know what I would be doing, because I don't want to do anything else, that's for sure.
And Chris, can I just say real quick, you were one of the very first people that Ryan said he wanted to have on the show when he proposed doing it, and I said, yeah, I'll help you put it together here in my studio. He was just like, this is one of the first people I want to have on the show, hands down, bar none. And so I do want to say one more time, we really do appreciate everything that you do for this community, and we appreciate you talking to us.
Well, Ryan needs to get out more if I was his first option. That's all I have to say. You better broaden your horizons a little more there, Lackner. No, it's been good. It's been a really fun process to watch and get involved with and see. And I've got that Denofa guy's walking at me right now.
Oh,
boy. Like he's going to put me to work.
Well, we'll get him on the horn one of these days, and we will let you...
He's right here. You want to talk to him?
Sure, put him on.
All right. What's up?
Hey, Mr. Denofa, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good, buddy. This is Andy and Ryan Lackner with Clutch Kick Radio. We've just been reminiscing with Chris about the early days of Pat's Acres.
Oh, yeah, this place has been awesome. I actually wasn't here for the early days, but the last 4 or 5 years I've been coming here for sure.
And I'm trying to remember, my friend, you were driving, I want to say it was like an LS3, S13 or S14 the first time I met you. No, am I wrong?
Nope.
I never owned one of those.
Yeah, nope.
BMW, likely.
Yeah, it's all
BMWs.
BMWs.
That's right.
Yeah, BMW turbo car.
So was your first experience at PARC, was that at the Turk Bash, or have you been were you to PARC before that?
In 2015, I think.
That was the first.
Yeah. That was a wild show.
I keep screwing this up, too. Cool. Is the red MR2 yours?
It was. It's gone now. Sold.
Man, I got to tell you, dude, I could not believe when I saw you throwing that thing around. I was like, wow, I've never seen anybody in an AW11 like that.
It's definitely fun. We wanted to build a mid-engine car, and that's like one of the cheapest ones to do. So that's one of the coolest parts about this track is that you can bring out something like that and still stay on everyone's doors and have fun. It's not like you have to have some crazy built car. You can keep things pretty simple.
Yeah,
that is true.
That's definitely the best part about Park. It's always a blast no matter what you're driving. You're just out there putting in the laps.
I think we are going to have you come on and talk about BMW drifting a little bit.
We can do that. No sweat for sure. Just holler at me.
Okay.
I'm actually going to run now. Thanks for having me on. I'll give you back the credit.
Yeah, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Okay. Thanks, Chelsea. All right.
All right, Chris. Hey, we will let you get back to work, my friend. Thank you again so much.
Yeah, you bet, you guys.
It's awesome
just an
talking with you,
example.
Chris.
You never know who you're going to run into out here at the Acres.
That's right. You don't. Every event is different. Amazing people.
Yeah, guys, and I thank you for reaching out and for everything you guys are doing, trying to expand the horizons as well. And as long as the people keep coming and playing, we'll keep putting on events.
That's a fact, and we will come and play with you real soon, all right?
Definitely.
Sounds like a plan. Hopefully the end of next month.
Yeah, hopefully. Have a good one, Chris.
Okay. Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Fantastic, man.
That was awesome.
He's such a good guy.
Oh, yeah. So much insight. It's crazy. Like, his brain is such a sponge with all that stuff. Like, I don't know how he remembers all the dates and all these things that happen, but every time I talk to him, he has some story to tell me from back in the day. And most of the time I remember him too, but it's just awesome reminiscing all the stories, like just to be there from the beginning until now, to just like he said, to see everything, even now, to randomly just Chelsea Denofa hops on, talks with us a little bit, because he's out there doing his thing pretty much every day of the week, so, and that's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. It's growing the whole community a lot.
And we need to talk to him about the drift school. That's a really fun, interesting thing. And actually, well, I'll save it for his episode, but I'm curious what age they let you start at. I mean, I wonder if they wait until 18 for insurance reasons, or I wonder if I can throw a 14-year-old in the car and get out there.
I would have, well, I don't know. I guess that depends on his drift school, but I know like as far as like drifting goes, as long as your parents sign it off, you don't have to be over 18. They can sign it off as long as, I don't even think you have to have a license. Doesn't matter if you're driving your own car and they sign for it and whatever, it's good to go.
Man, that's awesome. This is going to sound crazy, but quite a while ago, I'm talking like a year ago, I actually had a dream that I bought Pat's Acres.
Really?
Yeah. As odd as that sounds. I don't even know why I'm saying it live on the video, but there you go, guys.
There you go. Andy apparently is going to buy Pat's Acres. No, not going to happen.
Sometime in the future, maybe. We'll see.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was just one of those weird things. Yeah, Pat's Acres has been such a fixture around here, and you almost forget about how much media they got after that Ryan Turk thing and how everything just blew up. You being kind of on the forefront of it, Ryan, how does it make you feel knowing that the right people at the right time were able to really make this thing happen, and now you've got a semi-local drift track?
It's kind of crazy because I don't ever really, obviously we were there from the start, so we don't really think about it. Like, I don't, when he says it and when I'm thinking about it, it's a little different, but like, yeah, it is. It's weird to see it from the start till now and to know that, like, what he said, like us coming in and showing up and being like, hey, man, this guy ran away, because that's really how it happened. I mean, that guy ran away, and pretty much me and Kyle Stryker got with all of our friends and we talked about it, and we're like, okay, let's do this. And me and Kyle showed up on his door, just drove out to PARC one day when they were open and said, all right, this is what's going on. This guy's not going to show up. We're fully ready to do it all and this and that. And that's how we took over and went from there. And then, yeah, like he said, with Turk coming in and all the media guys. And I mean, so many people before that, Justin Shreve and Cameron Moore and, Travis Reeder and a bunch of guys, and now Chelsea Denofa. And there's just so many people, James Wickland, throughout the years that have just definitely grew things a lot.
There's something special about that track. There's no other reason why all of these top drivers would be so enamored with coming out and doing it every year.
it's such a fantastic track. The flow of the track is so perfect, and it has so much elevation change. That the amount of elevation change in that track is pretty wild. And you can definitely see it from, like standing on the sidelines and looking, but you definitely don't understand how much elevation changes in that track until you're really on the track. I mean, with the multiple banked corners, there's multiple big, like, kind of rising hills and dips and things like that. And I don't know, it's funny because it just ends up working out perfect as a drift track. And even with low horsepower cars, you can make it happen because, like, it seems like right where the dips are, it seems to help you because it kind of dips down and it'll kind of propel you through a section where maybe if you didn't have 400 horse, you couldn't make it, or whatever you want to,
Well, you're liking it, or the drifters are liking it for the same reason that the kart racers are liking it, because it's just got so much change, but it flows so well.
Yeah, because I know, for like example, the very last corner before you have to shut it down, like that corner is so banked that I remember, like, when I first started going to the track, we'd come into that and you'd be coming so fast and you just slam your brakes and all this, and then it's like, oh, now I'm like not even drifting because I'm going so slow, because that corner just kills so much speed. Like, in my S14 with the angle and all that, I just come in there hot, just throw a ton of angle and just sit off throttle for a second, and it pretty much slows you all the way down. You don't even have to really hit the brakes,
right?
And then just back on throttle through the end. But
I think we should give people an aerial view, because there have to be folks watching that have never seen this track before. Producer Nick, can you help us with this? What's a good place to find that aerial view? Just
you can probably just Google it.
Yeah, if you go to Google Maps and put in Pat's Acres, do an aerial view.
Do Pat's Acres Racing Complex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, that's such a cool track.
Oh, and what's funny is this is the old surface as well. I wonder if there's any overviews of the new surface, because some of those corners are 8+ feet wide.
Yeah, they're much wider than they used to be.
Yeah.
Because at first it was like, you guys stop dropping tires, but then at a certain point, it's dug out so much, we'll throw a little gravel and asphalt into
kidding,
it.
Right? Yeah, we're definitely going to have him on for another show, because I'd be curious. I had some more questions for him, but he was definitely busy and running short on time. But because I was interested to see how the new track surface is doing, and how the winter treated it, because I know that was a lot of what would happen before, is the water would come in and dig out under the track and all that. And so I'm curious to see how it went this winter, and all that. So we'll definitely have to have him back on for another episode.
Oh, yeah. Once some of these restrictions are lifted, we're actually going to go out there. We're going to do a live show from Pat's Acres and hang out and talk to Chris and probably talk to Chelsea and, just have a good old time. Hey, I think it's time to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank also Casey Miller.
Yes.
Go ahead and get those photos pulled back up, producer Nick.
Some amazing photography. Go ahead.
Photos. Oh.
Yes. All of every picture he puts out is just fire.
And he's got an OnlyFans, you guys. Now, he's not showing his body, but he is showing his photos. So I still recommend that you go and check that out. It's probably going to be a little bit cheaper since he's not taking it all off. But, we can hope for the future, right?
20's 20, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, again, huge thanks to Casey Miller for that. Huge thanks to Chris Egger from Pat's Acres.
It was an absolute pleasure getting to talk with him.
Awesome dude. Chelsea Denofa jumping on.
Oh, yeah. And we'll have to mention that May 23rd through the 25th is the Team Tanashimu event, and the first day is invite only. So if you are wanting to go all 3 days, you need to put in your application for that, and you can do that at their Facebook page.
Well, it's my birthday that day. They'll let me in for sure.
Hopefully.
All right, you guys. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for telling a friend. Everybody watching the live stream, thank you for that. Everybody listen to the podcast, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for telling a friend. And we will see you in the next one, right, Ryan?
Yeah. Definitely.
Adios.
See you guys next time.